We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Before we begin, we are still commemorating the tragic martyrdom of Sayeda Fatima salamu alayha, and we'd like to send our condolences to the Imam of our time, the Hujjah, and also to the Muslim Ummah. Before we begin, I'd like to invite our Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikhna, before we kick off with the first question, and this being the Nights of Fatimiyya, how important is it to commemorate Fatimiyya? Because let's be real, it is controversial to some people, the narrative that the Shia have of what happened to Sayyidah Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha. Should we keep this between ourselves, commemorate in private? Or do you think, no, that we should be a little bit more open? Should we mention the names of those who came to attack and who were behind the attack? Or should we refer to them as the enemies of Allah and, maybe the first or second Khalif or so forth?
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. You see these occasions, the commemorations of the Holy Prophet and his pure family, alayhi salam, we are showing two main things in these commemorations, and majalis, and noha, and azadari, and so forth, to show who is in the haqq side and who is in the batil side. We try to read the history, investigate, find out who implemented the true guidelines of Allah Azza wa Jal on earth, and who fought them and stood against the haqq and stood against the guidance and stood against Allah's message on earth. So when it comes to Fatimiyya, for example, we see in one side Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. In the other side is Umar ibn Khattab, who recently claimed to be a Muslim, announced Islam, and came into joined the Muslims, the Muslim Ummah, but he went and confronted the house of Ali and Fatima alayhi salam. We see similarly with the Imam alayhi salam, Amirul Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, and Abu Bakr on the other side. So it's always the battle between the haqq and the batil, the true and the falsehood. No. Likewise with Karbala, you have Imam Hussein alayhi salam on one side, the haqq, the pure righteousness and haqq and virtues, and on the other side Yazid, the evil, the devil, the batil, the falsehood. Always we have this throughout the history, the haqq and the batil. So we try to commemorate these events in order to, number one, to find out who is haqq. اعرف الحق تعرف أهله. Know the haqq, so you would know those who carry this haqq and implement and represent the righteousness and the right path. So that's why we commemorate, in order to understand those who represent the haqq, to follow them, and those who represent the batil and falsehood to abstain from them and stay away, and also to denounce them and reject them.
Ahsan, Sheikhna, well said. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show and we do take in all your questions. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp, the email address, which is ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively give us a call here in the studio, 0203 515 0199, and inshallah, the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. Sheikhna, the first question is in regards to a will. Now, as Muslims, are we supposed to write a will? Is it compulsory? A will being as in like leaving something for someone else. It may be even a piece of advice or instructions rather than actual wealth or so forth.
In overall, writing a will is mustahab. The one who writes a will, he would basically outline who will get what, or in overall, to define what is needed after his death to be done. But if there are some rights to be violated or lost, then of course it becomes mandatory to write the will. So others won't usurp the rights of the others. So that's, let's say, it would refrain from the breakup between the sisters and brothers in one family as a result of someone is trying to take over the whole inheritance and the wealth of the deceased. So in this way, the one can actually write the will and show that, you know, whoever is going to get this much, and it would be a fair way to share and divide the wealth.
MashaAllah. Shaykhna, when it comes to pregnancies, there can be a lot of complications. Sometimes the fetus even, unfortunately, it dies. Now, if there is a lady and her fetus dies inside her, and you know it can cause some harm or so forth, what is to be done in this situation, Islamically speaking?
Well, it becomes mandatory to remove this fetus or the child from the womb of this woman because it's causing dangerous and harm to this woman. So if they can remove it just by removing the fetus or the child from the womb, then be it. Otherwise, they have to go through operations and try to remove. At the end of the day, you have a dead human being inside this womb.
Yes.
And the place of this dead human being is inside the grave or inside the ground. So you can't keep this dead child inside the womb of a living human being.
I see. Sharon, the next question is from one of our viewers. Is it permissible to place a glass cover over a grave such that the corpse of the dead inside can be visible?
Well, if this constitutes disrespect to the deceased one, who is a respected individual, then it's not allowed. So, I mean, because at the end of the day, you're going to see what's going to happen to this deceased individual by the pass of the days and nights.
Yeah, it can even decay and so forth. So, I guess out of respect for the marhum, you'd let it be. But Shaykh, there's some famous people that have. I think Walt Disney's one whose body's been for visible for people to see. I think Stalin as well. And furthermore, if you go to museums and stuff, old remains of bodies and so forth, and old graves they've found, they've put them in glass like coffins and so forth for people to view. But inshallah, a discussion for another time. Shaykhna, is it possible to purify refined oil produced from plants if they are impure in Islamic jurisprudence? Not that some of these oils are fluid and some are frozen. In regards to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir al-Najifi, what does he say on this matter?
His Eminence mentions that the oil in general cannot be purified because it's liquid and it's different than the water. You can't do anything with the oil when it became and rendered najis. But if it's a frozen let's say like a butter, then of course if a drop of blood falls on the butter, you can just remove that area, and the rest remains clean and tahir. But in overall, there isn't a way to clean and purify the liquid oil unless if you use it for lighting up, let's say, a candle and so forth. For the lighting up purposes.
So you can use it to burn, but not to
exactly, like a candle.
I see. Excellent. Shaykhna, a question again from one of our viewers. Is the ghira or watchfulness of the wife over her husband permissible or not?
You see, the ghira or the watchfulness, if it goes beyond the boundary of Sharia and Islamic ethics and moral aspects, then it becomes haram, because it could cause harm to either of the sides. So they have to both respect the limits that they can have. Of course, the ghira is good to be in terms of the husband. He wouldn't like that people to come and chat and break jokes with his wife. I mean the men, for example, non-mahram men. So he would be happy to have his wife protected away from the eyes of the men, strange men, I mean, not relatives. And of course, and the vice versa as well. So this ghira is respected and accepted, but when it goes beyond the sharia, then it becomes haram. There was a story of a woman who burned the tent of her second husband's wife wedding. So the husband had the first wife, but he went and he got married to the second wife. So he basically bought a tent and he made his wedding in that tent. So she came and burned that tent, and dozens of people were killed as a result and burned as a result. So if this type of ghira, of course, is haram, because it led to killing many people innocently.
Wow. MashaAllah. Wow. Shaykhna, where are we? In this day and age, we have many females that are working in different types of environments, including hospitals, some work in security, some in marketing and so forth. How can a government deal with issues of women in a way that does not undermine her femininity?
Well, there are 2 points here. Number one, if she is a working woman, the company or the employer should give her more leave time from her work, so she can join, let's say, the academics, culture programs, majalis, Husainiya, the mosques issues, the programs are linked to the women, and to participate in these cultural and ethical aspects of the community. So, because if she works 9 to 5 every day, then she can't really participate when she comes back home late in that evening, for example. The second is that also to be given some more leave time to be with her children and family and husband and so forth. So, instead of her working, let's say, 9 to 5, let her work 9 to 3. And she goes back home and would basically be with her children, with her relatives, with her husband, for example, and the rest of the community. And of course, that would save money as well for the company and for the employer, because he's saving at least 2 hours a day. So we have to give some time for the ladies who work, so they can look after their family, their social life, and their community.
I think people sometimes forget that, as men and as ladies as well, there's a lot of responsibilities, and like you said, looking after the house, looking after one's spouse, looking after children, and also the community. We all have to give our time to help, our community and our families and our life progress. Inshallah, may Allah give us the tawfiq to continue. Inshallah. Shaykhna, if someone sees someone eating something that may be najis, or there's najis on clothes, for example, someone went to get a glass of water or something, and there might have been some form of najasa fall into that. Or if someone was praying salah and I see someone praying and I say, oh, I can see blood on your clothes, or maybe some other dirt or something that could be from something najis, is it mandatory upon myself to get involved and to tell this person that, oh, stop, that food you're eating is najis, that what you're drinking is najis, or stop, the clothes that you're praying with are najis?
It is not mandatory and wajib to tell that individual that you're eating najis or your clothes are najis. They have to find out, if this clothes or this food is najis or not. Because the hukum says, كل شيء لك طاهر. Everything is tahir, is pure. Unless you're certain that it's not pure. So they have to find out if this is najis or not. But for me, I'm not obliged to tell them, listen, your clothes are najis, your food is najis, and so forth. See how the Sharia tries to ease the situation and the way of living within the community, so it would reduce the difficulty in dealing with these issues. Otherwise, if it was wajib, then it wouldn't be a big issue, because I have to tell everyone whatever I see. So that's for easiness from the Sharia towards the mukallafin.
I mean, sometimes it can be, challenging, can be embarrassing for both the person who's trying to explain, and also for the person receiving the news as well, being informed that of the najasa. So, I mean, the best thing is, if you think so, just take them to the side after everything's done, or whatever, and then explain what you saw. Maybe this was the issue or not, and from there they can move forward and do something else. Shane, we're going to go to a break shortly. Inshallah, join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Islamic Ahkam. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show, and that if you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address, or alternatively give us a call here in the studio, and inshallah me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Speaking of the WhatsApp and the email and stuff, I think we have another question that's come from there. And from one of our viewers, could you mention a doubt that invalidates the salah?
If someone basically was praying the 2 rak'ah salah, such as Salat al-Subh, or Salat al-Musafir, Dhuhr and Asr, 2 by 2. If the one makes doubts between the first and the second, so I'm not sure if this is the first rak'ah of salah or second rak'ah, should I do qunut or should I continue? If this doubt arises, then of course the salah becomes batil and you have to repeat the salah.
Thank you, Sheikhna. Sheikhna, when you talk about salah and stuff and then invalidation and so forth, sometimes it's difficult to remember in different parts of the salah, including the surah as well. So what happens when an individual reciting a surah, maybe he forgets the next ayah or so forth, and the person behind, if it's jama'ah, they can't remember it neither. So what happens in that situation? Should the person, just finish what he can, carry on? Should they recite another surah? Let's say there's a time limit. Maybe there's not much time left. What is one to do in that situation?
I mean, basically, the one can actually abandon the surah which he forgot the rest of the surah. So let's say he started to recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Al-Hakum al-Takathur, and he forgot the rest of the surah, the ayat. He can abandon the surah and start, let's say, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, and then finish the ayah to the end. So you don't have to actually, you can't leave the surah incomplete and go to the ruku'. So you abandon it and read another full surah that you memorize.
Mm-hmm. Sheikh, now when it comes to purifying impure things, especially with tap water, some drops flow out of this process. Are these drops pure or najis? And I know that His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir Najafi, he discusses this as well. So while cleaning the najis and so forth, sometimes we get water drops. So we use water to clean it, and then some of those water, there's droplets go here and there and so forth. Are those tahir? Are those najis?
If the drop change the smell or the color or the taste, so let's say this drop came out from a najasa, although you had running water on the najasa, you try to remove this najasa, and it happens a lot when we are in the bathroom.
Yes.
So the water is on the najasa, but suddenly a drop comes out. If there was with this drops of water change of color or smell or taste, then of course it becomes najis.
Oh, okay.
But if it's just a pure water and there's running water as well, it should be fine.
Speaking of water, Sheikh, and especially wudu, His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Ishaq al-Fiyad, what does he say if an individual washes his arm 3 times? Because we know it's 1 time is wajib, twice is mustahab, 3 times, I believe,
it's haram, yes.
batil. So what does Sheikh Ishaq al-Fiyad, what does he say?
You just answered the question. Basically, Ayatollah Fayad says that the wudu is batil, and the one needs to repeat his salah if you prayed it in this case. So you can't do 3 times. The max you can do is 2 times. So, I mean, you can pour as much water as you can but the intention is one masah, one wiping. And then again, second time, that's it. The third time is makes the wudu batil, and of course, if you pray, then the salah is batil. Of course, we have to see other opinions of the ulama, that would this makes the salah or the wudu batil, or it's haram only. There's a difference between batil and haram.
Yes, you're right.
So we have to go back to the ulama, the rest of the ulama, to see if they actually consider this as batil or just haram.
Excellent. Shana, we've got another question in from one of our viewers, and that is that if the seller says at the time of the transaction, I sell these products with this particular defect, and then it transpires that there is also another defect, can a buyer return the purchased item? So let's say, Sheikh, if there's a car and someone says, oh, that there's a big scratch on the left panel, and then you're okay, you've been informed, you purchase the car, but later on you find out, oh, there's a scratch on the right panel as well. So the individual, does he send the car back? Is he eligible for a refund?
Well, it is permissible for the buyer to annul the purchase, the deal, and as you've just said, return back the car to its owner, because of this untold defect. Because he said there's only defect or scratch, as we mentioned, on the right, not on the left, for example, or vice versa. So because he hasn't told him about the other defect in the car, then he is allowed to annul the transaction and get his money back, or to pay the difference, pay the difference of the second scratch, as you mentioned.
I see. Okay.
Reduce the.
That's fair. That sounds fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Shaykhna, in regards to buying and selling, if I was to hire an intermediary or an agent or so forth to sell something for me, and I say, well, this is the price that I want, anything you sell it above, you can keep. Is this sort of a transaction, this sort of partnership, this sort of business, is this acceptable in Islam?
Yes, such transaction is valid, and the one can receive this excess amount, the high price that they agreed upon, so he can take the excess amount. Because tijara and taradun, as the Quran states, there's a trade with acceptance and satisfaction from both sides. Tijara and taradun. So that should be fine.
MashaAllah. Shaykh, another question we have from one of our viewers. What is the ruling with those who mock and make up jokes about people and try to make others laugh? I think a lot of us are guilty of this, actually. But it's always done with good intentions and good banter. But Islamically speaking, Shaykhna, what's the answer for this?
Well, those who try to mock people, the mu'mineen, the mu'minat, sometimes they mock the ulama, they accuse them, they insult them. I don't know for what reason, but ala kulli hal, this is something which is forbidden. It's not allowed to harm others, to hurt others. Let's see a narration from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam with this regard. He narrates that in the holy city of Medina, there was a man who had no job except mocking people and laughing and, causing the attention of others, for others to laugh and
so
crack jokes. Exactly, yeah. So the Imam says that this individual, this clown or joker, once he approached, or many times he approached Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he couldn't make the Imam Sajjad to laugh or to, ala kulli hal, cause that situation. So once what he did, he went and he took the aba'ah or the cloak of the Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and he ran away. So the Imam alayhi salam turned to those who were with him and he said, Man hada? Who is this person? Those who were with the Imam alayhi salam, they said, Hada rajulun battal yudhiku ahl al-Madina. He's an individual an idle man, somebody who has no job except to mock people in the Medina, crack jokes, makes people laugh. by mocking others, for example. So the Imam Salamullah alayhi said, tell him, قولوا له إن لله يوما يخسر فيه المبطلون. There's a day in which the falsifiers will lose. The mockers, those who make jokes against others, will lose. Day of Qiyamah. So such individuals who mock the ulama, mock the mu'mineen, laugh, and they use all the media available, all the types of medium available to mock others, to accuse others. There's such a day that Imam Sajjad Salamullah said that they will be losers. So we have to be careful not to mock others when they are dissatisfied and displeased with this act, and to respect the sanctity of a mu'min and mu'mina. They have a sanctity, mu'min and mu'mina, respected by Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah would respect the mu'mineen. إنما المؤمنون أخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم. They are believers, and male and female are brothers and sisters with each other. So make the bond with them, make the sulh with them.
Shaykhna, my final question, very interesting one as well for this evening, is that Islamic laws, are they strict or lenient?
Of course, the Islamic laws, according to the Holy Quran, in Surah number 2, Ayah 185, Allah states, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. Allah desires for you ease, and He doesn't desire for you hardship. When we do these worships, these rituals, a'mal, salah, fast, hajj, zakat, paying 20% of your annual wealth, excess wealth, these are all in the boundary of easiness.
Awesome.
Otherwise, imagine somebody who doesn't do all these things, they become arrogant as a result. All the money is mine, that's of all my hard work, no charity, no zakat, nothing at all, absolutely. So you'll have a society that rich and poor, for example. And of course, if they don't worship Allah Azza wa Jal, they would worship statues and other things, animals and so forth. So Islam is there, is to give us the happiness in this world and the hereafter. Sometimes some of the ahkam might be a bit difficult in our understanding and notion, but it's really for the happiness of the people. When we have qisas, for example, the punishments, is to keep the society clean from the criminals and insulters and so forth. It's there to protect the society.
Thank you very much, Shaykhna, for all your efforts and all your research. And thank you for everyone joining us here on Imam Hussein TV. Inshallah, we'll be back again on Monday, inshallah, with another show on Ahkam SOS. If you have a question you'd like to ask, and we don't need to know your name, we don't need to know where you're asking from, totally anonymous. No question is too silly or too taboo. It is our duty to find the answers for you. We do have contacts with the different maraja, their offices and their officials. So if you have a question, send it in via the WhatsApp, send it in via the email address, or alternatively give us a call, and inshallah we'll do our best to find your answer. This has been Ahkam SOS. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.